You see them every weekday noon Eastern on ESPN2. The His and Hers podcast, also available on ESPNradio.com and iTunes. Michael Smith and Jamel Hill are here. Let's start with the T-shirts. What do we have today, Jamel?
Both Mike and I went with a Friday theme. This is the 20th anniversary of the movie Friday, so I got big. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think Sunday, the 26th.
Yeah,
right?
Sunday the 26th. So
Seems inappropriate that the anniversary of Fridays would be on a Sunday, but that's
okay. So we figured we celebrated on a Friday.
Neither here nor there.
So
A pleasure to have you both here.
Yeah,
and
good to see you guys.
a lot of stuff to get into. We got some NFL draft stuff. We got some basketball stuff. I want to start with the fight. We had Jim Lampley on yesterday, and I don't know if you got a chance to hear any of that conversation, but he gave a really good answer. Mike asked him, will there be any sort of rising tide lifting all boats for the sport of boxing to come from this fight? And his very honest answer was, I don't know. It remains to be seen. There are a couple of other big fights in May. Will those be elevated by Mayweather-Pacquiao? It's an interesting question. Jamel, I'll give you the floor to begin. Do you believe that Mayweather-Pacquiao will actually lift the entire sport of boxing?
I'm not so sure about that. I've said for a long time that I think where boxing went wrong, and went wrong is relative, because this idea that boxing is dead, I don't buy that. As soon as you have a personality or storyline, it's certainly the pay-per-view numbers do not assert that it's dead. Now, you can say it's a one-man, or in this case, a two-man sport, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao being the biggest draws. I get that. But when they stopped being on ABC Wild World of Sports, I grew up when boxing was actually, you could watch it for free. You didn't have to have cable, and certainly didn't have to buy it on pay-per-view. And I think taking it out of some kind of regular TV mode, that you didn't have to pay for, was a mistake in a lot of ways, because at least you can start to follow the boxers. And this does not apply, because I know all the boxing nuts are going to tweet me and say, no, I follow it. And yeah, I'm not talking about people who have a hardcore interest, but when you're talking about casual fans, how you introduce them and get them to know all the boxers is through the Olympics, it's through having it on Wild World of Sports. And once they stopped doing that, I think it just lost a lot of some of the cachet it had with the public.
Mike, what do you think?
The interesting thing about this Mayweather-Pacquiao fight is discussing it, arguing about what could happen, anticipating it, or arguing whether it ever would happen, was the sport unto itself. It was like a little sidebar to boxing. Yep. It was so interesting, and it's like, in some respects, be careful what you wish for. Like, this is the fight everybody wanted to see, but it's like, well, then what? So if Jim Lampley doesn't know if it's going to take the sport to another level, I feel much better about saying I don't either. Jamel's right. I mean, you got to distinguish between the casual fan and the hardcore boxing aficionado. Try telling them that boxing's dead. I got every cable station. I spend a lot of time watching a lot of movies over and over again, I might add. And I see promo after promo for fights on HBO or Showtime. So boxing is alive and well in a lot of pockets of our country. But for the casual fan, after this, because a lot of people are going to watch this fight, buy it, have fight parties. But after this, what's to look forward to?
Well, I think this fight is about Mayweather and Pacquiao, not about boxing. Just what you said. I think that's what it's become. And boxing people can get mad all they want, but sorry, their sport has taken a nosedive. It has. So we're talking about we're not talking about getting them. They're there.
When you say nosedive, do you mean just in terms of day-to-day relevancy? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was way more relevant. So what we're talking about is how do you get that back? And one of the reasons we won't is because of just what you said. It's not available to the casual fan. So the hardcore boxing fans are always going to be behind their sport, and I get it. But listen, if you want to get the casual fans back, you have to make it available to them. I have a guy who owns a boxing gym. And it says, I run a boxing gym. A week after every huge pay-per-view fight, my sign-ups increase 40%. Those same people are never there again by the next big fight. He said it's just the interest, and then it goes away.
Here's the way I would describe it, Jamel, and you tell me if you agree. Because I remember the same era you did, and you would see Ernie Shavers fighting Ken Norton on ABC with Howard Cosell announcing it. It's phenomenal. If you want to look at people in the sport who are celebrities within the culture, not within the sports, but beyond that. We talk about that with baseball all the time. How many baseball players have crossed over? How many boxers could the average person walking down the street that does not consider him or herself a hardcore sports fan, much less a boxing fan, name?
Yeah.
Is it two? Is it any more than
maybe
these
the Klitschko's? I mean,
well, speaking of the Klitschko's, I was going to say, if you're even a sports fan, name all the heavyweight champions.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
You talk about center of the Lakers, center fielder for the Yankees, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, heavyweight champion of the world used to mean something, but everybody could identify with the heavyweight champion in the world. Maybe it's the absence of that one dominant heavyweight figure.
We had a lot of them who were Americans. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We're in the USA. You know, we're talking about we're talking. One of the reasons why maybe tennis fell off a while is we didn't have any of those Americans to hold on to for us to watch, and that's where you are in the heavyweight division right now.
Here's another issue. Bubba just sent us a note, and he did a very good job of breaking it down.
Huge.
He just sent us the list of all of the champions. The WBA has as many as 3 title holders in the same weight class. Middleweight has 3 WBA champions, 2 WBC champions, and no champion in the IBF. Welterweight has 5 belts, 7 champions, 5 different title holders. So that's one of the problems. They used to call it the alphabet soup of boxing. But even with that, I remember a time when, like, you know, and you're from Detroit. I mean, Thomas Hearns was fighting Ray Leonard or whoever he was fighting out of the Croc Gym in Detroit. And he was the WBA and the WBC champion. And you could sort of follow that.
Yeah, even they unified it, yeah.
But you can't follow all of, I mean, who could follow all of this?
Very difficult. And also just the absence of characters. You know, say what you want about Mayweather. There's certainly a lot to be said about Mayweather. He is at least polarizing.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
And sometimes you need that in the heavyweight division in particular.
Well, we've always had those kind of characters in boxing. And Greeny, you've made this point before when talking about the different sports and how they draw interest. The one thing boxing does have going for it, and why I think it's okay with where it is right now, is we are an event-based society, okay? And clearly Mayweather-Pacquiao is a huge event. Now, really, all you need to do is add the characters, and it could be back at literally any moment, and back in terms of the casual fan interest. So from that standpoint, I feel like it is in good shape because it's able to create the event of it.
I wonder, and I don't know this. What's youth boxing participation like?
I don't know. I don't know that either. I don't know, and I don't know. Do you really think boxing could be back that quick?
Well, it's back right now, but notice
right now just because of
But notice how our interest, that's how it goes. It's like whenever there are characters, a Mayweather, a Tyson, whenever there's a character for us to argue about and to latch on to something, we do it.
But now that we have it, I mean, you know, unless they're going to give us a 3-fight series.
I guess the question is, who's looking out for the sport of boxing?
Well,
watching the watchers.
But who's that commissioner that says I'm looking out for the best interest of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's fractured not just with the number of different belts and that kind of thing, but look at the number of different camps. You know, you have Bob Arum and you have Oscar De La Hoya and all these different people. Look, like him or hate him, that's the one thing. Don King.
I miss him. Only America.
I miss him. Another character.
Don King was that character.
He was.
So I think boxing is now just kind of more of a soap opera as opposed to, you know, kind of what it used to be as an actual sport.
And that's a good word.
I don't know about youth participation, but I will say that the Olympic boxing, that used to be the thing, one of the top events in the Olympics, right? That was what you would look forward to more than anything. Now, boxing is buried in the coverage of the Olympics.
It is.
For whatever that's worth. All right, Mike and Jamel are here, his and hers. You see them